And welcome back to XGS Season 7. We're heading into Game 2, SSG Academy versus the Mormon Battalion. Goose, how we feeling over there, my man?
I'm feeling great. We have essentially what are a little bit of two new rosters and two what should be on paper very evenly matched up teams. And on top of that, I already know the map. We won't spoil it for you just yet. So everything on paper right now shows us the future that this should be a very close and competitive matchup, falling off of what we didn't think was going to be, but ended up being a very close 7-5 for Fluffy Aimers and Outlast Black.
Yeah, I mean, I love these kinds of names and these rosters. Like you're saying, they feel very evenly matched. And I feel like when I was looking at the groups beforehand, when I was doing my homework, these were kind of the biggest question marks. These were almost aside from the actual wild card, these were the wild card teams for me that were like, ooh, these could like dominate their group, or they could kind of be mid-tier, maybe scrape it into playoffs. But I think that this match is really the match that will really prove that to me.
Speaking of, we gotta actually see who is going to be playing today, who's going to be in the server, who will be saying whose names we could potentially mess up. First, it's going to be SSG Academy. After JetCon went back to college, they introduced Mike W, which is a little bit of a question mark, because if you saw their Twitter post, they were looking for a hard support player. Mike W is not your traditional hard support reach player, more of a flex frag. But again, since he does play that flex position, we could perhaps maybe see him in that hard support. He's a really big question mark today. Obviously a player that has a lot of impact on whatever team he plays, but it's going to be up to the 4 other players to utilize him to his full maximum potential. And on Mormon Battalion, who have essentially what is a merge of Juan and Goon's main academy, being headed by the main honcho himself, XGS.
Yeah, my GOAT XGS, I'm really excited to see him once again. I feel like this is kind of a squad that has been getting a lot of publicity, I would say. I feel like when I see tier 3, tier 2 teams on Twitter, it's usually Mormon Battalion, and I love those kinds of teams and players that love to make a name for themselves, because once they get into the server, they have something to prove versus teams that maybe don't really have that much of a social media presence. They kind of just go into the server and they're like, all right, whatever. But speaking of whatever, we're going straight into the map bans, and Goose, I'm on the edge of my seat from that little teaser you gave me. Oh, cafe? Wait, hold up. Wait a minute. Wait,
we almost, for the second time in a row, actually, this is the first time, we almost got layer. We were that close to getting layer. We were that close to getting layer, but it's going to be Mormon Battalion. Just a little bit too scared. They're not going to let it escape the ban phase, and it's going to be Cafe to be our map, and SSG Academy to be starting on the defense. And, unlike other maps, Cafe is kind of out of the meta. It's because it's so structured differently from other maps, it could kind of swing either way. It's not really a definitive attacking or defender map, especially depending on the certain level you're playing it. It can really swing either way. So, sure, it is an even playing ground. It's going to also be a little bit of a question mark.
Yeah, I feel like something that I'm really looking forward to seeing is how willing these players are to making Cafe what it is, a spawn peeking haven. I feel like no matter where you are, as soon as you spawn, you're already thrown into the lobby. You're dodging bullets left and right with the 5 windows that you have to duck from when you're spawning towards park. Even through the front door, there's that run out of main window. There's a lot that you can do, and if you're able to start getting that momentum in your favor, especially on the defending side, and make the attackers spawn a living hell, that's really where Cafe comes to life. But there's a lot of teams that aren't willing to do that. They're wanting to play it safe. They don't want to sacrifice that numbers advantage. So I'm curious to see which side of the coin that these teams play on.
There's also a lot of storylines here. Mormon Battalion, as I talked about, is a mixture of those wanted goons teams. And, after their appearance in E2 and bringing on that Academy roster, they really struggled in the amateur scene. And for SSG Academy, again, going out in yet another semi-final for the 3rd Element season in a row. And on top of that, Mike W coming off of a very confusing season from Aerial Arise. So a lot of question marks and a lot of players who really want to prove themselves. They want to find success. They want to find their stride yet again, and they don't want to fall too deep down into that sphere. It's going to be Dokkaebi needing to be banned out first in Azami. Again, I talked about how Cafe is a map that is just out of the meta. It doesn't really play into what is currently seen in other maps. And Azami, not banned a whole lot, but is going to be a useful operator for the defense that's going to be gone.
Yeah, it's taking away that easy cigar control on that third floor. So now we're gonna start seeing probably the defenders relying on operators like the castle to try to lock down that third floor. Maybe even going into a Mira setup if they choose to. That's something that is usually meta, I would say. But like you were saying before, it's kind of this weird map where there's a lot that could be played, but not anything that's like set in stone, right? And we're going to be seeing Solus being picked up from SSGA, something that I love to see on a site like Cafe, and they're going to reading here first off, rather than what you would commonly see as maybe that third floor hold.
I really like specifically that Solus and Echo being brought out from both Bay and Godville. It's going to give a lot of secondary support onto that bomb site once Mormon Battalion eventually does push onto it. You're going to be having that Solus potentially playing below, and also potentially even that Echo playing below that's going to be able to play spoilers for that bomb if Mormon Battalion are able to get into a position to get it down.
Yeah, and also a little bit of a reliance on droning from Mormon Battalion here, but as soon as I speak, Bay opening up the map with a spawn peak. Going to be losing one of his yokais, however, on that, and taking some damage. They do have the pink to top off the members that were hurt a little bit. Droning from the Brava drones, these Flores drones, and Solus is able to maybe spot those out and get a really good prediction of what Mormon Battalion is looking to do going into this map.
Yeah, and SSG, they're continuing to play these very aggressive positions on these doorways and windows. They're not trying to let Mormon Battalion breathe whatsoever. They're making them fight for every inch of map control. But here's Monty, getting aggressive shield on his back, a little bit questionable, but he's going to be able to continue to push on.
That pressure, though, from Mike W towards first floor. Going to be spotted out from the Flores drone. I actually don't think it's spotted, but deciding to shoot it, though. Able to shut down XGS with a beautiful shot. Storylines that we were talking about before are coming to life. Debates able to trade out their teammate here, so now the attackers are on the back foot, but it's quickly going to be back in their favor. Debates with a flick, taking down Eli as the ABS goes through. Toaster and Hectic forced to maybe try to find something to even it back up, but SSG Academy falling back to the space that they have available to them and not giving them a wink of hope.
A minute and 16 seconds left. Complete top floor control in the favor of Mormon Battalion. They've essentially done the job that they had sought out to do, even if they find themselves in a least favorable position, being down one man. They have plenty of time to drone. They don't have that vertical play to be set up. They still have the Grim Bees to get enough information, but this three-man crossfire being held by bottom white is going to be absolutely powerful. Mormon Battalion, if they're not able to find out these position of these players, it could punish them and shut down the very first round.
And as they are slowing down this attack, they have the boom mines getting up in Jabate's pocket as well, which is going to be even more of a thorn into Mormon Battalion's foot. Literally, as they are mini thorns. Another one going out towards White Stairs, and Battalion now going from Pillar, trying to find something through there. The Grimbees are starting to go out, but a heady from Debate shutting it down. A quick lurk there, able to shut it down as well. Debate's beautiful kill from Laundry. And SSGA looking as good as I thought.
Yeah, that was a very decisive round. So far, again, very questionable. SSG Academy looking for a very specific role, being that hard breach role. Then taking Mike W, and even all the way back when that Twitter post when they put out a hard breach LFP. I was questionable because, a player like JetCon, not only was he that hard support player, but a lot of the times he was that second initial entry, especially on the defense. And I thought bringing in simply just a hard support player was not going to be able to make up enough of that. But bringing in a player like Mike W support and fills that role absolutely perfectly. And sure, it's only one round, but so far, Mike W has been able to play his, role relatively well. So that little worrisome point is not going to be there that much. But for Mormon Battalion, struggling a little bit early on in that round. But again, they're on the attack. Very first round, they could have potentially more opportunities to strike back.
I will say though, SSGA showing off a lot of, what makes a team good. They have their strats in mind. They're playing off of their strats really well. It seems like they already have the fluidity of what an experienced roster brings to the table. And this is only the first round with this roster. I mean, obviously they've scrimmed with each other, but on the stage, that's where rosters are really shown. Obviously, 'cause that's where the competition is. And SPA doing a great job of following the protocols that they've set up already and forcing Mormon Battalion to really think about the space that they're attacking for. They there was a lot of time soaked in that third floor hit, a lot of members and a lot of utility lost that once Mormon Battalion got what they came for, it seemed like it was a near impossible round at that point.
Yeah, in Mormon Battalion, a lot of the problems that I've seen in the past month, again, they haven't gone under this name for, more than a couple of weeks, but these players, they've played together. They've been on two different rosters under the same org, so they're very familiar with each other. And a problem is simply just working back, losing the control. And a lot of the rounds when they lose control and get in that man deficit, they have trouble crawling back, really getting those picks, getting that map control, taking advantage of opportunities given to them. It's a problem they've yet to really fix. They have moments of success, but it doesn't lead to anything consistent, and that's going to be their main problem continuing in this very first matchup.
Excited to see how Godville plays the Slurp. Speaking of that space that you're talking about. Tucked into second floor, was playing towards an early first floor hold. They do have the Nomads, these air jabs, to try to prevent it, so Godville has to play it smart a little bit. But obviously, that Solus is able to spot those out and plan their attack for Mormon Battalion. Face to go up to the third floor attack, which is quite the uphill battle in itself, and SSGA is playing quite early with Mira and Castle in mind.
Ooh, Mira. Mike W almost getting over aggressive. For now, not a whole lot going to be happening. Mormon Battalion not really able to find a way into the building. Jabates being that one defender trying to meet the players. And on top of that, you have Godville down below with those two reinforcements. It's going to make it so difficult. A really good defensive setup from SSG Academy to start off the round.
But it is opening in the favor of Mormon Battalion. Eli lurking up from red stairs, able to lock down the cigar player of Jabates. And so that's going to be giving Mormon Battalion a little bit of a bite to try to chew on. Red is in their favor and in their control. So as the minute starts to tick down, you have something to play through. Heartbreach is going for the Grimpy's actually going to be missing here. So that's going to be stomping them a little bit and slowing it down. The time is not in their favor. They have to make something happen, and they have to make it fast.
40 seconds left. They do get the very first entry pick. But again, a problem that we've seen time and time again is just simply finding an answer for a problem in front of them. And again, this is what is continuing to punish them.
It might be Eli here, walking into Paris to try to open it up. Maybe be a little bit of a flank on whoever's playing on that Mira. This might be Mira itself. And he's trying to get a little bit of pressure. Eli in, but Focal going to be shooting him down. Eli swinging, finding 2xEach, able to get one on the backside as well. So as the sparks start to fly, Focal is left alone in Bathroom Hectic, able to pinch him down. Mormon Battalion able to quickly and swiftly take a round.
I talked about, in that last 40 seconds that a lot of the time Mormon Battalion have a problem of problem solving, trying to find a solution for what awaits ahead of them, whether it be a roamer away from the site or just a hold in general. And they were able to solve it by just quickly flooding the site, catching those SSG players off guard, and punishing them for playing so disconnected. The question now, though, is if those SSG Academy players going into these next couple of rounds are not giving those gaps, are not disconnecting and putting themselves in a least favorable position, are Mormon Battalion going to be able to separate them? Are they going to be able to create a problem for the defense to try to find a way to take control of the round? Is yet to be answered. But all chat continues to ride on.
This is what I was talking about before, where like those are the only people that I really see on like like tier 3. And, like they're so loud and funny that like you kind of have to root for them. I don't know. I'm a big fan of yappers personally, and it seems that they're going off with it even in all chat, trying to get in the heads of SSGA. I mean, it is a strategy, right? If you're feeling good, if the comms are flowing well and you're having a good time, you don't get tilted as easily as maybe SSGA might be if they aren't having as good of a time. It's a valid strategy. I did it when I was pro in a different video game, and you know, I made it pretty far. I don't have a Wikipedia page or anything, but I made money. Speaking of making money though, SSGA down on their secondary site, looking for something a little bit more as they're defending this first floor big.
Mike W playing what is the position. This is going to be the very first contact that Mormon Battalion are not only going to have to deal with, but they're going to have to either get rid of him or clear him out and push him back to the site. They're going to try to potentially use those firebolts from Capital to flood him out or maybe get rid of the shield entirely. But Mike W, he's ready. He's been put on this operator being
past that first frontline defense. Focal able to support, pushed back with Ace taking down Bakery single. So now the flood is going to start. Mike W popping the glasses, trying to avoid anything. So far it's Siege in with Monty. The Gon 6 taking down that deployable shield, and they're able to escape with their life. Falling back towards Cooking here, giving up that space that they're allowed to give up. A minute 20, they've wasted all the time that they need. Mormon Battalion, though, has that control of Bakery, and it's a regression from Focal. If he pre-fired, that might have been 2 kills, but nothing found just yet. Still 5v5, a minute remaining, but we have to remember what Mormon Battalion was able to succeed with 30 seconds on the clock. 5 kills dropped within what was a blink of an eye, and it seems that Mormon Battalion might be looking for that exact same thing. The shots being traded, but nothing just yet, Goose.
If you notice, they have absolutely no control of red, no control of backside, and now they're going to have to fight for this. This is going to waste so much time. Mormon Battalion, they're going to have to actually choose an avenue into the site.
Mike W taking a lot of damage and finally taken down from Hectic. The tip of the spear, XGS with the La Rock, able to secure some site space. And it's a beautiful shot from Eli taking down Focal. That was the only other defense there. Bay taken down as well, and the plant is going down. It's up to Godville, who's playing Harry Potter, lurking up to second floor, trying to find anything with verticality, but all the members of site are dead with Debates dying and rage quitting out of the lobby. I would too if I died that way. 4 goo mines in the pocket of Godville, but 4 members remaining from Mormon Battalion, one of them including the Monty. Melee whiffing, knocked to his knees, and Exceed shutting it down with 1 more hit. Mormon Battalion so far in the first half looking quite solid.
And this is going to be one of those situations where we see a repeated mistake, a repeated gap in the defense of SSG Academy. Twice now in a row, SSG Academy has played completely disconnected on purpose, allowing Mormon Battalion to take control of the site and shut down those trades, shut down those crossfires and lines of sight set up by the defense, which then leads to the conclusion that those lines of sight, those crossfires, were poor.
Yeah, it seems like they're doing a good job of, you know, wasting their time, taking up the space. The first 2 minutes of SSGA's defense is looking great, right? but it's that last minute, they're not doing anything. It seems like, you know, they're wasting time the whole time. And then Mormon Battalion has a lot of time and space and clarity to think about and talk about how they want to execute the last 30 seconds, because they have a Monty literally staring down the whole site, getting every information. It's like a UAV is on their map. They have a mini map of exactly how they're playing, and SSGA isn't doing anything to throw them off their game plan. So Mormon Battalion, with one swift stroke, is able to pick up 2 rounds now.
Yeah, and you know, in the very first round, I talked about a big problem for Mormon Battalion is when they are given an opportunity to take a round, they don't exactly know how to. In these past 2 rounds, though, that problem, at least for now, has been completely fixed. Every time there's an opening and a gap that SSG has, whether or not it's on purpose or unknowingly let to slip by, Mormon Battalion, not only do they take advantage of it, but they identify it relatively quickly on, so they can plan around it seconds, tens of seconds before they actually even execute onto a certain position. For SSG Academy, on the other hand, I'm not exactly sure if it's the lack of having JetCon, that shot call player, that, you know, sensible backbone of the team now gone. It's, you know, leaving them in, you know, a little bit of a shaky situation where they do need that player. They do need those backbone in the last couple of 30 seconds. We're not exactly sure. And the question is going to be answered if they're going to be able to come back. Are they going to be able to change up their game plan, really shut down these gaps in the last 30 to 40 seconds, or if it's going to continue to snowball into a bigger problem later on in this map?
And I think that is also the question of which of these members of SSGA are going to step up and make some sparks fly, right? I think one thing that might also help them is one of these players just needs to step it up and start being a little bit aggressive, be a little bit scrappier, try to fight for the space that Mormon Battalion is kind of taking over. If one player is able to start making something happen and getting those, you know, that momentum going, maybe, you know, feeling themselves a little bit on the fragging out, then they can start to pick up the pace a little bit. But so far, there's been like no star that has been shown just yet. No like awe factor. And as much as I don't really like when teams are built around that kind of star player-esque play style, you do sometimes need that when you're in a situation where your strats that you're relying on, that protocol that you're playing off of, just isn't working. You need a member to just step it up, get something rolling, and just make things happen.
I think if we even go into the more micro plays, you saw that as soon as Mike W lost his life in the very first entry pick 1 to Mormon Battalion, SSG Academy didn't really have that, you know, enthusiasm to retake that space, to cut off that line of sight that was now no longer there with the position of Mike W being removed. That is a huge problem that Mormon Battalion immediately identified, and that's why they were able to take so much map control so quick after getting that entry pick, is because as soon as they get a pivotal player, SSG, they don't retake that space, they don't set up new crossfires, they don't set up a new problem.
New problem is exactly what Mormon Battalion needs to, you know, be slowed down. SSGA doing a great job of, you know, laying down, just kind of chilling, playing off the space that they have and not doing anything about it. And hey, I mean, if you want to slowly lose out and slowly bleed out, I mean, that's by all means go for it. But if you want to start fighting back, get a match, get a map, especially in a single round robin, you gotta start playing for the win. You can't play to just not lose. I think that's what SSGA is kind of showing signs of. Like you're saying, once Mike W died, or even once Focal was being pushed out of Freezer, supporting Mike W towards Bakery, it just, they didn't like fight for the space. They didn't, once the ace charge was going down on that single wall, they just kind of gave it up and went, all right, that's yours, you know, you can have it, I guess, if you really want it. Dang, like, all right, my bad, you know. And when I would say other teams, maybe even Mormon Battalion, would swing that wall, try to get one, try to get two. They seem to have a lot of opportunities to get a couple kills, but and that's what I think you're starting to see lacking. But if you're an SSG fan, you are going back to the site that they won on previously, so maybe this is the start of a momentum, a run that they desperately need.
And again, SSG Academy are going to use those operators like the mirror, like the castle, to not only cut off certain lines of sight for the attack, but create new ones for themselves on the defense. And again, paired with this heavy roam from Godville on the Legion, it's going to give a lot of different things for Mormon Battalion to deal with. Sure, there's going to be a castle barricade there, but it's not going to completely cut off those defenders from looking on to that B bomb site over by Bar. It's actually going to be that little head hole. Being paired with Bay and the Wamai on Focal, it's a perfect crossfire setup that actually, that double castle barricade gives them so much support, and so far, Mormon Battalion don't necessarily have an answer to clear those two players out.
Yeah, some B is going to be giving away Mike W's position, but it seems like SSGA is doing a great job of funneling Mormon Battalion exactly where they want them. One adaptation that they are showing this time around is no Solus, no dedicated roamer, and so it's going to be 5 men on site. Make that 4 with the grenade, securing the kill on the Jabates, but wasn't left unanswered with Eli being taken down as the opener, so SSGA is starting to fight back a little bit more. Italians trying to get some sort of foothold so far outside of this red. Seems though, looking at Terrace, this was the linchpin that won them the previous time they were attacking third floor. Will it do the same thing? Local being taken down here. Still a couple members towards A site, but the information is all they need. Vague, regressing, but gonna be shut down quickly. Exer on the Finca, looking gorgeous. Godville swinging exactly where his teammate just died in front of him. Some information being shown, but Exer is too good for that. Finding 3 in the round and making SSGA sweat a little bit on this defense.
Past 3 rounds in that actual execution phase, SSG Academy have looked clueless, like a chicken with no head running around. Time and time after again, Mormon Battalion are isolating players into 1vx situations, and that is exactly what you need to do on the attack. Putting these defenders in these least favorable positions, forcing that mirror, forcing the Legion to swing onto a position where they could be swinging onto one, they could be swinging onto the entire team. They are not only taking away intel from SSG Academy, but they're forcing them to engage in situations without any intel on top of it. And it's just a unwinnable situation really for SSG Academy, because they're not even well aware of where these positions are. They're not well aware of these crossholds being held for Mormon Battalion, and that's why they're finding out these isolated picks.
And where is the flair that SSGA was showing off in the first round? They were playing a little bit aggressive. They were scrapping it up. They were willing to meet them where Mormon Battalion was fighting them. And they got a success with it. They got the round, and ever since then, they've been fighting demons with allowing Exer to just talk so much crap in all chat. I think SSGA is starting to get into their own heads and question everything so far about this map.
And SSG Academy, they're still in a position to get an even 3-3 half, but if you're Mormon Battalion, you want at least that 4-2 winning half, especially on the attack, which again, I talked about how this map can relatively swing either way. This could just simply be a forced setup from SSG on the defense, or this simply could just be an attacking favored cafe. We won't know just yet, but again, the theme of Mormon Battalion having complete control on the intel game continues to ride into this 5th round.
Jabates might be in a little bit of a pickle here, being spotted out on a drone, and I don't know if he was very aware of that. So Mormon Battalion potentially have an angle to pinch down on the 3rd floor members, but I don't know if they're very aware of how much support they really have. 3 members of SSGA playing towards the 3rd floor, with Focal and Godville also off-site. I think this off-site play here is exactly what SSGA needs to start clawing some rounds back in. Okay, exploring. All he's going to discover so far is XGS, and XGS is able to see 1 member backing off. Doesn't know just yet where Mike W is or Jabates is. I don't know if Jabates got spotted there. Might be able to lurk up and get a freebie if he's allowed to. Godville, though, getting a little bit of pressure here, and Mormon Battalion just hasn't found where they want to strike. Some presence towards top red still. Cigar is going to be theirs, but with 1 minute left, This is where we saw Mormon Battalion start to flunder when they were attacking reading last.
The problem now is that Mormon Battalion, they don't have control of this top floor, and they're in a situation where they need to decide if they want to continue to try to get it or if they want to just simply push down onto the site. They've chosen the latter, but that's found themselves in a 4v4.
Debates is going to be taken out from the third floor control, but this allows the pinch to happen in fast. Godville able to explore maybe towards white, maybe move all the way around. But Bay is keeping them company on the third floor. Hasn't tried to go down the hatch. All right, is going to go through laundry. This is going to allow SSGA to be a little bit more bolstered towards this second floor, and no more members towards third floor. They're allowing Godville to be that flank, and maybe Mike W on white as well. And there's that pinch. XGS being taken down from under him. A beautiful verticality play to shut down the shields. And Xer still thinks that there's a member towards third floor. 10 seconds remaining. They need to make something happen very fast. 5 seconds. Nitro being thrown out. There's the shots going through. Focal finding Hectic. The man with the defuse. Xer finds his kill, but losing the round. SSGA finally finding something, a foothold into the map. And we might see a little bit of hope for the SSG fans.
Yeah, a lot of those rounds, specifically the last 2 rounds that SSG Academy lost, you could see, especially in that last, 30 to 40 seconds, they hesitated to swing. They hesitated to get aggressive and retake that position. And when they were eventually forced to retake the position, it was already too late, which would lead to, in summary, just a mistimed retake of the site, allowing Mormon Battalion to get too much map control. But in that round, especially with that player on the side of Jabates, taking that control all the way over to Bar, it really shows that, an enthusiasm to take that control. The lack of phantom pressure was there. The SSG Academy, they had faith in retaking the position. They weren't scared to get aggressive and retake and put the pressure onto Mormon Battalion early on before it was too late. And that's what led to a successful round win. And they need to continue to push that theme going into this last round if they want to even it out.
I loved how aggressive they were on that third floor. SSGA. Maybe they just get like some sort of buff when they play towards reading, because both of these reading rounds, they look completely different from these other sites that we're holding here. Bakery, we saw a Warden being played towards Bakery with the support of Focal on the cross. This time they're dropping that. There's no deployable shield from the side of SSGA to hold Bakery with. So I'm maybe getting a little bit concerned here that they might be, allowing them to take the space that they want, like we've seen them do so many times.
Again, Mormon Battalion just feeling a little bit of that phantom pressure, trying to potentially catch a player off guard, hoping that they maybe get over aggressive on these aggressive plays early on, but nothing will happen whatsoever. So now, Mormon Battalion, they're able to actually drone out, get the intel, find out these certain positions, and if you look at the overall positions and where they're pushing on this map, there's not really a lot of pressure, not a lot of emphasis on taking that vertical control upstairs, going for more of a horizontal play, just trying to flush these players out over by Bar and Brown. But you're going to have to do that homework. You're going to have to clear out the stuff, because even if they do get that map control, you're going to have a player like Mike W above to reap the rewards.
Yeah, that spoiler, that re-aggression from Mike W might just win them the round. It might be that flair that I've been talking about previously, that just what they're lacking, right? Coat member as well might be that line of defense that they need. Toaster already up through main. I don't know if they're aware of Godville and Coat just yet, and they're not. Finding Toaster, opening up the round with a man advantage. Slowing Mormon Battalion a little bit more, but where's XGS this whole time? Why is he not the first person in the site? Eli is going to be exploring towards second floor, and so it might be a battle of Eli versus Mike W, and there it is, like a prophet. He's finding Mike W, surfed him out, no longer that spoiler from above, but 50 seconds remaining, and this is where Mormon Battalion starts to make magic work. Eli trying to get something happening, and going to be doing it quite successfully, taking down Hectic, but hey, excuse me, Bay is taking down Hectic and Xer as well. So now it's up to XG and Eli, who are completely separated. VIP gonna be taken down, shut down, and now Eli, who they have information on, is exploring, and all he's gonna explore is an MP5 bullet to the head. An SSGA with a miracle in hand, finding a 3-3 split.
SSG doing a great job of just recouping, not really falling to that phantom pressure and having a lot of enthusiasm in their plays. You know, every time they took a play, they pushed onto it with 100% into it. They didn't pull back. They didn't pull back, and because of it, they were able to get those 2 rounds back to back, and even out with a 3-3 man count. I was getting a little bit scared there that they weren't able or weren't going to be able to solve those problems, if they weren't going to be able to really have that backbone with a player like JetCon being removed. And so far for now, that problem will be fixed. But now translating onto the attack, they're going to have to be aggressive. They're going to have to be the team that pushes the tempo, that's going to try to take the map control, because you're no longer on the defense. And we could perhaps see that problem prop up yet again. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, because I was about to bring that up. I feel like Mormon Battalion is going to start giving SSGA a lot of problems that needs a little bit more of a snap solution to be found. And without JetCon on the roster, I'm afraid that they don't have the person in the comms to make those decisions and fast. Sometimes I feel like teams at this level find themselves arguing with each other what is the most optimal play, what needs to be happening, especially if you don't have one dedicated person to just make a decision. Whereas usually it's just the decision being made is what is the solution, right? Like just doing something together is what is needed. Speaking of which, they're going to be looking towards the 3rd floor as Mormon Battalion takes us back to reading.
And if you look at the overall presence from Mormon Battalion, not a whole lot over in this piano position, not anyone even in the bathroom. So this is going to allow SSG Academy to base specifically to take so much map control for relatively free. And on top of that, they've identified Hectic's position. That Dade's going to push him out, is going to continue to try to flood them out with this attacking utility.
It's up to Xer as the support to maybe try to help him out. I don't know if they really know where he is. XG, though, able to take down Mike W from the backside, but there's Jabay. It's going to be shut down as well. Hectic, the man that they need to shut down early, is going to be finding one and get out with his life. Eli finding Focal as well. The attack inside of SSGA is falling apart. Godville, though, finding some sort of recovery into this round, taking down Hectic on his escape route back to Laundry. So now as the dust slowly settles, Mormon Battalion find themselves recuperating back onto the same floor together, except for Eli playing closer to the 1st floor. This is GA with a little bit of a timer, finds Toaster, but it's a shutdown from Xer towards Reading. That's going to be able to make this a 1v4, a near impossible round to lose. Godville, though, maybe having the miracles that we saw previously with the Outlast of the Aimers game, makes something happen, something magical. This is a massive round for SSGA. If they get this, you know, this clutch round, that's the momentum that they might need. And the Banshee's giving away a position, but it's going to be giving him a free kill as well. 3 now on the board. Some sound from Eli towards Bar. That's going to be giving him a little bit more information. I believe Mormon Battalion is giving him a bunch of 1v1s that he could play off of if he finds the angle. Some shots towards Eli. Is low HP, so 1 para bullet, I believe, will knock him to his knees, and no support from the rest of his team to pop him back up. Playing towards the hatch of Laundry. Godville cooking. Oh my god! A beautiful heady towards Exige, and he is cooking. Eli 1 more away with the para, but time is starting to slow down for him. 10 seconds, and there's Xer. Finally giving the nail into the coffin, shutting down any hopes that they had. Mormon Battalion finding their win on the primary site.
That lack of communication and cohesion in the comms that we saw in specifically those 2 rounds, being, I believe it was Bar and Kitchen on the defense, is now coming back and striking them as a problem. Translating onto the attack now. I just can't get over that shot. That was just disgusting. Oh, wow, that was great. But again, those problems, the lack of communication, the cluster of comms and situations allow for gaps to be whole. And Mormon Battalion talked about that problem of not taking advantage of those gaps has been fixed. And SSG Academy, they're being punished for it. And again, it really goes back to losing Jetcon, that backbone of the team. The IGL is just one of the worst kind of players to lose. And we're seeing it in a lot of these rounds. And as of now, aside from these rounds where as a team they're whole, there's not really one player coming up. At least what it seems like that's really giving them good direction.
And they're now choosing to go into a composition that needs that voice to, orchestrate the map. The Jackal, the Deimos, this roam cleared. You want to work as a team to make sure that you're not losing that many bodies when flushing out the members that are playing off-site. Luckily for them, though, Mormon Battalion isn't really playing anywhere that is going to threaten this verticality play with the Ram of Bay. It's just going to be Eli playing towards Museum. Might start to spot out. A lot of damage going towards him, falling back to bottom red stairs. And now this is going to give him a lot of space, and Jabades from the top rope able to knock him down. So now SSGA has the space to work with. A lot of verticality game, and not a lot of time used to get it.
There's no hard breach. There's not one player, no Thermite, no Ace, no Habana, not even a can opener as secondary utility. It is simply all just raw utility in that Capital, in the Ram, paired with some soft destruction on Bay. It's going to be a really difficult round and a really questionable decision from SSG Academy to not bring that hard breach, to not be able to open those hard reinforced walls, and that's going to allow players like Poster to play in these solidified positions without really feeling that pressure, without those new lines of sights being open.
There's going to be big problems here for SSGA with dealing with these people like Clash, this big shield. Do they have the space? Do they have the pinch to be able to lock it down? But it seems the target now is Exer on VIP, shut down quickly by Godville with the Deimos death marker to be able to shut it and help him out. That's what I thought was going to be quite worrisome, was working together with that death mark and trying to get that isolated kill. I thought without JetCon, that might not be a very feasible win condition for SSGA to play through. They're obviously making me eat my words. They're starting to get a little bit more space towards the first floor as well. Mike W eating a goo mine and slowing them down, which is getting a little bit scary here. 40 seconds left on the clock and not a lot to work with, but the next target being identified here, Toaster towards Bakery. Who's there to maybe try to cut it off? Mike W maybe towards Cope to try to help it out? Cope will go peeking, but it's the swing from Bay that shuts it down. They still have this big problem of Flash to deal with, though. A couple pocket EMPs, actually no, they ran out. So it's all up to some gunfire and some fast snap plays to make it work. And Godville's making it happen. Now that big problem is left all alone. Xsiege with a TMP in hand, trying to find something with the 1v4 uphill battle. He finds one. The bomb doesn't end up going down, but who cares? When Focal is able to clean up the kill, SSGA finding a pretty dominant round.
I talked about how I was a little bit worried about them not bringing that hard breach, but it simply was not a problem. They played those certain 1vx situations, trying to isolate those players, isolated the player playing over by Christmas relatively easily, and just simply tried to play off of those picks, always doubling down on a player. If you notice, every single time that SSG Academy engaged into a gunfight, there was at least two players right next to each other. So if a player lost their gunfight, they're going to have the teammate right behind them to get that refrag and shut down that defender. A great overall round, especially in theory of Siege. A lot of the time, just that trade theory, just simply working the picks, bringing at least 2 to 3 players, essentially just trying to dwindle down that man count. It worked out perfectly. And, to be fair, Mormon Battalion, a couple of gunfights they probably should not have given away. But at the end of the day, SSG Academy answering back and are not letting too much slip away on this attacking app.
And I love the teamwork that SSGA used. And also a great punish of Mormon Battalion, being this kind of, looser, maybe not as structured of a roster as SSGA has, they didn't have the protocols to fall back to. They were playing isolated. They were playing off of, playing solo, like a solo queue kind of defense, not really supporting each other. And SSGA did a great job of identifying that and playing off of it, isolating those 1v1s, getting that man advantage. And so that big problem of Clash existing wasn't a problem if you just kill everything around the Clash when they don't play with the Clash. Now they're looking at another second floor hold. Going towards Cocktail this time, though, is a lot of members of MORMON Battalion. They're maybe playing a little bit more verticality than we've seen previously on the second floor. Starting to explore, but a Blitz and a Maru on the side of SSGA here, Goose.
This entire attacking lineup just screams apply pressure. You're bringing that Deimos to find out where these roamers are, bringing the Lion and the Amaru to get quick plays, and they have complete control of site. They completely isolated every single defender away from the bomb site, but Toaster's able to find one.
Bay being picked off there, but now it's a quick dash back to site, trying to pick up some freebies. This post plant is going to be terrifying, though. They're able to plant for the window. Jabates with the Amaru is able to play the verticality, but it's Mike W on the shield taken down. Jabates able to trade it out, however. Now it's starting to get a little bit scrappy, and this is exactly what MORMON Battalion thrives off of. Jabates, though, finding two, and now it's a force through the gritties, but not enough. Vocal with the final kill, picking off any sort of attempt of a run out. And what a great read from SSGA.
I don't like to say this specifically because there's been a certain narrative. I won't get into it too much. But those last two rounds where SSG Academy brought operators that simply applied pressure, the Lion, the Amaru, the Deimos, that simply were able to apply pressure to certain isolated players and forcing the idea that we need to get those picks. We need to get these trades. We need to simply go for kills, especially the way they did it. This is a little bit of a semblance from the main SSG roster. And, I've seen it throughout the past couple of months, even all the way going back to E3. Every time that SSG Academy, they do start to have a little bit of trouble. They don't exactly copy SSG main, but they do pull a little bit of the theory of we need to go for those picks. And obviously they do it in a completely different way. They bring different operators. They have a different strat around it. But the idea of going back to simply, we just need to start killing people, is had success. And that's exactly why this meta is, a lot of the times, very quick and fast.
Now MORMON Battalion forced to maybe recuperate. And like what you're saying, SSG is doing a great job of picking them off one by one. And now I feel like MORMON Battalion is maybe trying to figure out a way to kind of put band-aids on that issue, trying to play off of each other a little bit more with three members playing towards Cocktail together. But this might be exactly what SSG wants them to do. They now have the Ashe to start opening up these castles. They have the soft breaches, and they have the Grimbees to maybe force them into a corner and make it like a firing squad towards Cocktail. You have to remember, the last time they were contesting towards Cocktail, it did get a little bit scary for SSGA, but it seems like they have the adaptation and the willingness to adapt. That might foster them a couple more wins here in this round.
As of now, it's a little bit of just, a finding phase. SSG Academy taking map control over by Piano relatively easy and early on, but now they have to deal with these two players upstairs. Essentially problem players, but for now it actually looks like that SSG, they may just completely try and circumvent and hit the site again.
This is something that we saw it work in the previous round. And it seems like MORMON Battalion, when they're off their game, when they're not playing for their picks, and they're forced to play into what SSG wants them to do, that's when they really start to lose ground. They start to lose rounds. And it seems SSGA has identified that perfectly and is now forcing them to do the same thing. Vocal trying to find an angle towards Train, and there is a member towards that. Eli is going to be holding it. Now the Grimbees are spawning at the third floor members as well, so it's kind of defragmenting this MORMON Battalion Iron Curtain and trying to get some opening picks, and there it is. Toaster is going to be the first to fall. That top white member, though, is there, still down. Hectic finding a beautiful kill, and that's going to completely open open up this round. The last cocktail member is spotted, not quite dead just yet. He's fighting for his life, got his, but that's not enough when Godville is hunting you down. Focal finally picking off that member that he was working for quite a while towards Train, and now it's up to XGS once again, all alone, playing completely the exact opposite part of where SSGA has been playing. A quick lurk towards White might pick him up 1, maybe 2 freebies, but SSGA has a stack towards second floor. There's not a lot of space for XGS to work with.
Team captain himself. The shotgun will ring out. They know exactly where he is. He gets 1 though. Trying to potentially find another one.
Maybe looking for something, but SSGA, they're calm, they're coordinated, they're playing the post, they're playing off of each other. Couple playing towards third floor as well. Mike W. Maybe the red herring here. She got a lot of drones, but Mike W. with the prone peek on XGS, getting a little bit of little salt in the wound, and it seems that Mormon Battalion, after being told to stop talking in all chat, has lost their luster, and SSGA might be able to get away with this map.
Wow. I mean, it's simply just wow. Even on the defense for SSG, we saw that a lot of the times they didn't play for picks. They didn't try to aggress and stop those attackers, killing them early on. And because of that, it allowed Mormon Battalion on the attack to get so much space, specifically on the bomb site, and just a little bit too much respect. But in these last 3 rounds, SSG Academy has had absolutely no respect. Has given Mormon Battalion 0 time to breathe, 0 time to react. If there's a kill, they're most likely going to follow by another. They're going right for the heart. They're making sure that they simply just do exactly what an FPS game is made for, is to just kill the other team. And it is a theory of Siege that is controversial, because Siege is a deeper, game. There's a lot more behind it than simply just killing the other team. But Mormon Battalion, because their defense is a little thin, because they're able to give these isolated picks to SSG Academy, they're continuing with confidence, striking these players down early on.
And it's that confidence that we saw on their defensive half when they're playing on reading in the first round. Once they started to pick up a little bit more luster in the 5th round, playing at reading once again, it was that confidence that I was saying. When they were in reading, they were a completely different team. It's because they felt good, they felt confident, they swung everything, they taught everything. And like you're saying, we're now seeing it on the attack. And Mormon Battalion just has no idea how to counter it. They're flustered. They don't have any sort of semblance of a bite back. They're kind of playing towards the strats that they scrimmed with multiple times, I'm sure. But nothing has yet to stick, and I don't think they have a deep enough playbook to be able to counter.
Every time that SSG Academy makes a decision, they do it quickly. They drone out and they say, okay, cocktail, or not cocktail rather, but cigar is clear. Jabates just retakes that space as soon as he gets the call. And this gives them the chance to spot those gaps early on before Mormon Battalion are given the chance to regroup and shut it down. But such a definitive hold, being backed up by these reinforced walls, for now does give a little bit of difficulty for SSG Academy, looking for potentially a different avenue, a different way to apply pressure from perhaps below, but a player just slips by the lines of sight of Jabates.
XGS was playing below the skylight, drop down, re-exploring towards White and recapping back to his team. Like you're saying, SSGA quickly getting that space in cigar, and it gives them a lot of time to be able to talk about what else they can do with that space. And it's Mike W opening up the round, putting on Hectic. So now as the round starts to maybe pick up the pace a little bit, they have so much space to be able to play off of here. They have all the knowledge. Mormon Battalion seems a little bit clueless of how this round is going to go. SSG, great job orchestrating how they want to go. Flashes starting to pop. Exer though on the ward, able to pick one off. That's Godville, the opening. Able to find a second for the hell of it. Bay shut down. What it allows SSGA to swarm a little bit, and Jabates find the pixel, flooding towards Freezer, finding Toaster, but one man towards Lounge is able to shut down that space, that climb, but there's not enough to stop it. Vocal finding Eli, a quick swing from XGS, recuperating, finding a trade. and it's Capital. Mike W, the man that we've been talking to and talking about since the beginning, able to shut down the round and secure a map that, I mean, to be completely honest, Goose, I did not think was going to go into the favor of SSG.
I didn't think so either, but SSG, after losing their very first attacking round, won 4 in a row, taking it home absolutely flawlessly, and Jabates going absolutely huge, not only being the main entry fragger for the team, but also the player that really gets them into the site, really shutting down the defenders right on the entry points of the sites, and then eventually also being a player that's able to shut down the round, paired with also Mike W having a little bit of a slow game, but in those last couple of rounds was able to be quite a bit good finisher for SSG Academy. But they're able to come out top after what was a very shaky start for them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of what shows that kind of shows the difference between maybe a scrappier, fresher roster like Mormon Battalion that doesn't have the org name that represents themselves versus a roster like SSGA. They just kind of have this composure that they bring to the game that, maybe once they start to lose rounds, they lose momentum, they still have that structure to fall back on. Whereas, rosters that maybe are lower tier or don't have the support of higher tier teams, they don't really have that structure. They play into and lean into their scrappiness, their fights, their just maybe raw gun skill that can win them rounds. And we saw Mormon Battalion picked up a lot of kills with that and a lot of rounds. But at the end of the day, SSGA had the adaptability to shut down exactly what Mormon Battalion kept showcasing over and over each and every single defensive round. And that adaptation we see today led them to a swift attacking W.
A very great showing, and a relatively, on paper I said this was going to be a close matchup, and it's exactly what it was. It was a really close matchup. But I talked about SSG losing JetCon, that backbone of the team. Were they going to be able to not only have that cohesion as a team, were they also going to be able to adapt? Because SSG is a team known for being able to come back from deficits, being able to adapt. And adapting is, losing one round, then losing 4 in a row and finishing off the map. And that's exactly what we are used to on SSG Academy. Was a little bit worried about Mike W. Still have a little bit more question marks for him. But for now, it seems like he was a really good slot-on fit.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And, well, with that is going to be it for SSG versus Mormon Battalion. But we are going to be heading into an interview here soon. We are able to talk with one of the SSGA members and potentially talk to them about those question marks that we have, Goose. Maybe the question marks about Mike W, about how they're, able to orchestrate and have that composure going into a deficit like that. And it sounds like you might have the pleasure of talking to one of those members, and I can't wait to hear what they say, Goose.
I'm really curious who we're interviewing. I've actually never interviewed SSG Academy, so I don't know who usually does interviews for Aerial Rise. It was simply just boys. I don't know if they have that player, and it would be JetCon, but he's gone. And we get to ask a lot of those questions. We get to really, hopefully, get those answers potentially soon. It's gonna be Focal. So we're just going to yap a little bit until we actually get to talk to him. But yeah, keep in mind, this is a Group A matchup. SSG Academy still has to play Makers and Fluffy Aimers. This is probably one of, if not the most competitive matches, or not matches, but groups between Group A and B, especially with the reigning Element 3 champs. It's going to be a difficult group.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like these are teams that have scrimmed against each other a lot and faced each other on the server a lot. I mean, obviously BGS just happened, so members like Makers and Fluffy Aimers were seeing there, but also a lot of these Element players that were just barely knocked out, or even just won, like you're just mentioning, are able to face off once again. And Group A has a lot of those semblances. You have teams like Makers, you have teams like Fluffy Aimers, you have SSGA, and even Mormon Battalion, who's starting to try to make a name for themselves. Group A is honestly the group of death, and I'm excited to see how it starts to be panning out here, Goose.
Yeah, 100%. And, we can say that the top 3 position could be SSG Academy, Fluffy Aimers, and then Makers, but we have teams like Mormon Battalion. We have teams that, even perhaps Outlast Black, that could be those dark horse teams that could potentially upset a team And it really is going to be the question, especially with the introduction of the play-ins, which, keep in mind, I'm not sure if it's a best of one, but it's single elimination. If you lose in the play-in, you are out. I really love these changes because not only does it make it competitive, but it doesn't really add a lot of extra matches that we don't really need.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, with round robin being a best of one each and every time, it really is just a game of which team can, like, make sure that they're getting their maps. Like, the free maps, one might say, of maybe it's a lower rated team or a team that's a little bit more fresh. If you're a top roster like Makers going into this, making sure that you're nailing those one maps. If you're able to maybe start losing to those, or if you're a newer team able to find a map on the top dogs and maybe slot yourself in on that number 3 spot confirming playoffs, then things can get a little bit spicier, a little bit dicier going into the deeper we go into XGS.
Yeah, it even falls down to if you go to like overtime against a bad team, that could potentially affect your seeding. Because, you know, if that does come down to even points, but there's a round differential because you went just a couple more rounds with that team that you probably shouldn't have on paper, it could punish you. And, you know, again, sure, Makers are going to be coming off of a hot and very convincing win against Wildcard, but we've seen time and time again, not only teams after Element blow up, but also kind of fall off and falter a little bit.
Especially with the new maps like Lair. If you're a team that is able to play Lair or willing to play it, like we saw SSGA was willing to play it, forcing Mormon Battalion to ban it. Like, those are the little things too, you know, especially, you know, with Element, Oregon was being played. It might be switched up. If you're a team that was relying on those maps, that can start to be a nail that is kind of going into your foot there. And, you know, if Makers, maybe there's a strat that there's a lot of games that now are that were on stream of Makers. So if you're a team like SSGA that is able to play the strat, play the structure, play the mental game of Rainbow Six Siege versus just playing, you know, the shoot the head and laugh a little bit and all chat about it, then you might be able to start picking up rounds against a team like Makers.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, again, we've yet to see Lair. It's one of those maps, not only is it new, not a lot of teams like it. Just, you know, speaking and hearing Reblance, people just simply don't necessarily enjoy it. It is such a big and defender-sided map. There's understanding to it, especially against teams like Mormon Battalion. You're not going to want to go to Lair against SSG Academy. It's just not what you really should do. Especially, again, teams like SSG Academy, Makers, there are the team not only scrimming on Lair, but scrimming against those other T2, T1 teams even. So they're simply just going to have not only more, but better scrim experience on top of it.
Yeah. Well, Goose, I do have some a little unfortunate news today. It seems that not a single member of SSGA has a working camera for us to interview them. So that is going to be the end of us casting today. Goose and T-Van, the dynamic duo. One may even say the LeBron and AD of XGS. It is going to be our goodbye for tonight, but don't go anywhere. There are still a couple more games for XGS just being casted with a similar crew to us. So from there, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in just a second.